The month of November is a very busy month for the Nintendo Switch owners because there's a lot of games coming out, and more than likely you cannot afford all of these AAA releases coming from third-party companies. Sell some teeth, sell some old shoes, whatever you gotta do to hustle to get that money, son. Get that money. But no, really, you know, whether you're looking forward to Doom or Skyrim or LA Noire, there are a ton of games coming out at retailers for the Nintendo Switch. But in light of this, I feel like some indie titles are going to get overlooked. And that's sort of a shame because the Nintendo Switch's eShop has been a bastion of really good games so far for the Nintendo Switch. And recently, a game called Morphite released on the Nintendo Switch. That was a game that I had never honestly heard of. And it's kind of weird because I watched the trailer of it and I was like, yo, this is a game I would like, I think. So I decided to check out Morphite and review it for you guys. It's a bit of No Man's Sky, it's a bit of Metroid Prime, it's No Man's Metroid. I'm sure they couldn't name it that, but that would have been a cool name for the game. So what is Morphite all about? Is it a game that you should check out? Is it a game that you would like? And did I end up liking the game? Let's find out in my review of Morphite for the Nintendo Switch. So Morphite has you playing as a character named Mira, and Mira lives on this space station with her surrogate father. And the game starts out and you're sort of just doing missions for him. You know, he's having you go to different planets, almost like a little sort of tutorial for the game. But as the game progresses, you start to realize you have a past, and your past is actually pretty dark, and there's a lot of strange things that happen to you in your past, and you want answers for them. And that's sort of the catalyst for the game. That's the story of the game, is figuring out Mira, figuring out what the Morphite actually is, figuring out what relics you find throughout the game that give you these flashbacks to your past are all about. And it's really interesting. I wouldn't say it's, you know, one of the best stories of all time, but it's definitely a catalyst that helps you keep going throughout the game because you want to see what ends up happening. There's a nice plot twist in the middle of it. I like the story. It's actually pretty well done, and there's actual full voice acting for all the characters. Mira sounds really good. Mr. Brooks, which is your surrogate father, sounds really good. Lots of good stuff all around. A couple of the characters sound kind of wonky, but you know, this is a lower budget indie game, so I don't expect, you know, top-notch voice acting in this game. You know, it's just nice to see that there is voice acting in the game. And like I said, it's a bit of No Man's Sky and it's a bit of Metroid Prime. So you start out the game and you get in your spaceship, and this is sort of your home away from home. You have to upgrade your spaceship for various reasons. So when you're flying around, you don't fly around in real time. There's destinations on the map and you could choose which destination you want to go to. But there's a catch. You got to make sure you have enough fuel. But it's not a big deal because there's planets that you encounter along the way, and you could stop and land there on their space stations, refuel and barter and whatnot. But what I liked about it is the ship actually has like reason to be upgraded besides just the fuel capacity so that you can go further distances. One time I was just flying around and they were like, hey, there's an asteroid field coming up, and I'm like, okay. And then all of a sudden it just sort of switches to this Star Fox-esque thing where you're having to dodge all these asteroids, and I'm like, hey, that's pretty cool. I should probably upgrade my shield just in case I run into an asteroid. One time I was flying around and it was like, hey, some ship wants to barter with you. And I'm like, okay, let's see what he's got. He didn't have anything cool or anything, but it was nice to, you know, have these little differences, these little unique instances pop up in the game that sort of, you know, keep things going, keep things fresh. And then one time I got in a freaking space battle and it was like Star Wars, and like the dude's shooting at me and I'm shooting back at him trying to destroy a ship, and I'm like, what is going on here? This is pretty sweet. So it's not just a vessel to get you from point A to point B. You definitely want to upgrade your ship. Now, how do you upgrade your ship? Well, you upgrade your ship the same way you upgrade your weapons. Well, how do you upgrade your weapons, you might say? I haven't talked about weapons yet, you might say. I mean, I haven't, but we're gonna get into it now. So when you land on a planet, you are equipped with your scanner, and that's where the Metroid Prime aspect comes into play, because you're constantly scanning different things. Each planet is really well crafted. Each planet has its own fauna. It has its own, you know, vegetation and stuff like that. It has its own sort of, you know, weather to it as well. And of course, there are its own creatures on there. So when you scan all of these creatures, scan the different sorts of plants and whatnot, you accumulate them, and then you sell them, and you could sell all your common ones, and that's how you get currency in order to upgrade your ship or upgrade your character and your weapons, because weapons play a big role in this game. You originally start out with just a little standard pistol, and as you progress through the game, you get different sorts of weapons, and that is key, because much like Metroid Prime, there are certain doors that you have to have certain weapons in order to open them. So you might need like a little grenade, or you might need a rocket launcher, or a charge missile, or a charge laser, and stuff like that. So there's all sorts of different things, there's all sorts of different weapons that you get throughout the game, and you're constantly wanting to upgrade these weapons so that, you know, you could take out the creatures, because some of these creatures are pretty easy, some of these creatures are pretty docile, some of them won't even mess with you. But then you got, you know, dinosaurs and stuff, because there's dinosaur planets in this game, and you guys know I love dinosaurs. But no, like, there's all sorts of, you know, different creatures that will attack you, and there's, you know, robotic creatures, there's boss battles. Some of the boss battles are freaking sweet. Like, one of the early ones that happens in this game is like this huge flying dragon thing, and he's flying in the sky and you're trying to shoot him down and stuff. It's very enthralling, it's very interesting, it's very fun to go to these different planets. And as you're completing your missions, you also encounter hunters, which are trying to stop you because they want Morphite as well. They want these relics as well. And you're trying to figure out why they want these things as well. Why are they here? What is going on? And once again, that all plays back into the story of the game. And it's a really solid story. Like I said originally, there's a nice plot twist in the middle, and I really liked the way things went on. But the gameplay was probably my favorite thing about Morphite, because, you know, you're visiting these planets, you get a mission, it says go to this planet. So you go to that planet, and then you enjoy that planet. You enjoy its ecosystem. You enjoy, because each planet, like I said, is different. You know, some are swamp levels, some are snowy levels, some are, you know, junkyards and stuff like that. And there's different stuff to see at all of these different planets. But you're not just tied into going to that one planet. You don't just have to go to your mission and then, you know, complete your mission, go back and just go through the story straight line. There are reasons to visit other planets, because you will see creatures on other planets that you wouldn't see on other planets. So what I'm saying is, basically, if you just follow the main storyline, you're gonna end up missing out on different sorts of creatures on other planets and stuff. And I was sort of, you know, tied into that. I was playing the story pretty straight and narrow, and then I just decided to start, you know, looking at other planets and stuff, and it was just so cool to see the amount of stuff. You know, there's different sorts of creatures and vegetation, like I mentioned. You're constantly picking up different resources, and resources, once again, also play a role into how you upgrade your weapons and how you upgrade your ship. You have to have a certain amount of resources and stuff. There's just a lot to do and a lot to see, and some of the planets are a bit barren. Some of the planets don't have much going on them, but honestly, for the most part, I felt like all the planets sort of had a purpose, had a meaning to them. You know, it was cool trying to figure out how to upgrade my suit so that I could visit these really cold or really hot locations. It was cool seeing all the different creatures in there. And what I liked about the creatures is, sometimes if you get two different creatures that don't like each other, you'll walk up and they'll be battling each other, and it's like, oh, okay, thank you for doing my job for me. I don't have to kill one of you now, or I don't have to kill both of you. I don't have to kill one of you. So it's really interesting how this plays out. And the side planets are actually procedurally generated, so you're gonna get a different experience each time, which is really nice. And, you know, sticking with how the planets play, you have to talk about how the planets look and the graphical style of the game. It's definitely a low polygon look to the game. You know, it's not trying to push the boundaries of hardware or whatnot, but I think it looks good. It's a nice, clean aesthetic. I really like the design of the creatures and whatnot that are in the game. As I mentioned, the voice acting is pretty solid. There's some really good music in the game as well that I really enjoyed, you know, sort of synth, almost like 80s stuff. And you have this little sidekick with you. Speaking of 80s stuff, you got this little sidekick with you, Kit Kat. And Kit Kat's a little chatty dude, and he actually says some very funny stuff. You know, there's a lot of pop culture references from him, and, you know, Mira's just like, what? And Kit Kat's like, oh, you wouldn't understand, don't worry about it. And it gets a little chuckle out of you. You know, you're in this desolate environment with, you know, everything is trying to kill you, so it's nice to laugh a little bit. Honestly, I didn't know what to expect from Morphite, and when I got the game, I was pleasantly surprised. Morphite is a really fun game. It is definitely a good blend of No Man's Sky, and it's definitely a good blend of Metroid Prime put together in one. Scanning stuff, having weapon upgrades, and this huge, vast solar system of different planets to visit and different, you know, planets to do. There's side quests on these planets. You know, you can get more money, you can get more different sorts of minerals so that you can upgrade your stuff. There's reasons to do these side quests as well, and it's just a really surprising game. The best part about Morphite, it's $15. It's $15. Like, this is a no-brainer to me. They released No Man's Sky at $60 and tons of people were disappointed. But Morphite is a budget game, yet it doesn't feel like a budget game. Shockingly, this was actually an iOS game before it even came to the Nintendo Switch, but I never would have guessed that. There are some little minor issues with the game. You know, the controls, sometimes you have to adjust them a little bit to suit your playstyle. At first, they felt a little bit too sensitive, or a little bit too slow for me, excuse me. I had to increase the sensitivity. Sometimes you might fall through a random wall or something, you know. Like I said, this is a budget indie game, so there are little instances where things happen, but for the most part, it is a great game. It is very fun. I enjoyed visiting all these planets. I enjoyed figuring out Mira's backstory. I enjoyed encountering all these creatures, all these awesome boss battles, and just exploring the lore of the world of Morphite. I honestly hope this ends up becoming a series because it's a really fun game. I would love to see more games in this style. So Morphite, don't sleep on this game. It's $15. Go pick it up on the eShop and let me know what you think about it in the comments section down below, because if you're a fan of games like No Man's Sky and Metroid Prime, or just first-person exploration games with some combat thrown in and an interesting narrative, you're gonna enjoy this game. It was really surprising and I'm glad I ended up getting it. So let me know what you think about what you've seen, what you've heard about Morphite, if you've played Morphite, in the comments section down below. And thank you for checking out this video. If you're new here, make sure you subscribe to the channel, hit that like button, and I will catch you guys next time. Later.
RGT 85, RGT 85. RGT 85.